people may have 3D printers that can just print whatever products that they're buying online.
I see a day in the near future where agents won't need a professional photographer.
AI is going to be the fabric of how things are created online.
And I think because we're able to produce more, things will get cheaper.
Figure out how AI can impact your business.
Welcome back to the Cloud Podcast. I'm Logan and I'm here with Nate, my business partner. And today we're going to talk about some really exciting things that are happening in the real estate market. So without further ado, let's kick it off. Nate, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man. There is a lot of things going on in our industry. And I'm excited to jump in and talk about what it is that everyone needs to keep their eyes out for.
Definitely. I know yesterday on the phone we were talking about some major moves that Zillow is doing, a little bit about Redfin and these big players and how consumers are shopping online, how the MLS is integrated to these different, website online companies, Zillow, Redfin, and all that sorts of stuff. So yeah, dude, let's talk about that stuff first.
Let's do it. Maybe we should talk about like where we're at, or should we talk about maybe like how a platform like Zillow even became what it is? Maybe we should kind of start at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the past, traditionally, when someone wanted to buy or sell a home, they'd go to a real estate agent and they had pretty much the plug on all the information, all the homes, right? And this is pre-GPS, pre-internet, really. I mean, the old MLS books were printed out and you had to pay money to get your listing into the MLS book. And essentially the books, I don't know if the consumers could have them, but I think it was more of like an agent. You pay for this membership to this book, and then you have the information, people come to you. And obviously that's drastically changed over the years.
That's crazy. I actually did not know that. That is pretty wild. It's very similar to the way Yellow Pages.
Yellow Pages.
Yeah, Yellow Pages. Was there a book one? Something called something books?
Maybe, I don't know. I think of Kelly Blue Book. But I mean, all these companies, they've evolved so much. So, I mean, these companies that have been around for over 30 years are pre-internet, right? And once the internet came around, it's like, holy cow, like let's use this to our advantage, right? And then you had these brick and mortar traditional companies like the MLS starting to change the way they have information. And then you have the disruptors that come in and say, whoa, hold on. There's something missing here. And, it's kind of like what we were talking about yesterday. It's so hard for the MLS to move because they're a big machine. And when a new company like Zillow comes in, I mean, they can move quick. They're, filled with very brilliant minds, and it's a single leadership. So it's not like the MLSs that we know now, which are ran independently. And there's, I would say in the state of California, probably over 30 of them. So to get them all on the same page is pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I feel like in order to be a disruptor, you have to understand how a company can do that in the first place. There's a really good book out there, and it talks about building exponential organizations. And I think I've probably shared it with you before, but there's almost like a blueprint to how you can disrupt a industry and what that means. And a lot of like what disrupting does or will do to an industry is a lot of times decentralizing. And if you think about the way that Zillow or Uber or Airbnb really disrupted these industries, is they decentralized information. And if you were to compare to what the MLS did, like what you were mentioning about their print books, is that they had centralized information and they were able to monetize that. And that's what, a lot of companies have always done pre-internet. And even when the internet did come about, they were still centralizing stuff. But now it's like, get as much data as you can on a certain something industry and give it to everyone for free, and then figure out how to make money off of it. And it's really interesting how things have changed because Zillow did exactly that. And I think that it's really interesting to see the MLS and the stronghold that they have on the real estate market, because you do have to input your listing into the MLS to get it listed. And, being listed could mean so many different things nowadays, because if you just went straight to Zillow, where everybody's looking, you can list your listing. I know there's MLS rules and whatnot, but it's interesting now to see how these rules of these organizations are a little combative.
Absolutely. It's wild for those listening that aren't real estate agents. I just want to talk about what it takes to post your home online to the MLS. So you sign with a local agent, and that local agent is a subscriber to that local MLS, which they probably pay, I don't know, about $1,000 per year. And each MLS, actually, not necessarily an MLS, but your association of realtors is a member of an MLS. And then the MLS all kind of is a umbrella under CAR, California Association of Realtors, and then which is another umbrella under the National Association of Realtors. So say you have a home in, I don't know, let's say Sacramento, and your good friend is a real estate agent and they're in San Francisco, and you want them to list it. They have amazing marketing to get your listing sold. For that San Francisco agent to put the home on the MLS, they would have to put it on their local one, and this would feed over all to all the other San Francisco realtors and agents. And there's confidential remarks, and there's things in each MLS that aren't available to the consumer, like how much commission they're offering to the buyer, how much how much repairs a home might need, because they don't want to publicly put it out there. So there's a lot of different things that the MLS does that isn't available for the consumer. However, if you wanted to put all that information in front of a Sacramento realtor, which is, the people that are local to Sacramento where the listing is, it's just so difficult for them to put it on their MLS because they have to become a member of that MLS. And you're talking maybe a $600 one-time fee, right? Whereas Zillow, no matter which MLS you put it on, it pops it up in front of the consumer. So there's often times that some of the agents that are older and they're working with buyers, they'll put them onto a property radar sort of search, I guess you could say, that whenever a home comes on the market that's available within their criteria, they'll automatically be notified by the MLS. So it helps them get the information first. However, let's say if that home is not on the MLS, they won't see it, but the consumer will see it on Zillow and not the MLS. So then the consumer's like, hey, why didn't you send me this one? And they're like, is happening quite often. And when you go to a territory where two of these MLSs border each other, there's a huge problem, because which one are you a part of? So a lot of those agents have to pay twice as much. And it's just crazy, so how the information is distributed. And it's funny how these MLSs and associations are traditionally making money by this method, whereas Zillow is like, hey, I'm not even worrying about making money. I just want attention. I want people's eyes. I want to be the place people shop.
Yeah, and it just I know we've talked about it on a few other podcasts, and just the way that you monetize things and the strategy you use. A lot of the way traditional businesses have worked is by being very transactional. So it's like, I have something, you want it, and it costs money. Whereas now, the way that technology works is we want to give away everything for free, and there's going to be some incentive that allows us to make money over a longer period of time. And I think truly that there needs to be some sort of change, or basically MLS needs to be like Zillow. They need to be the place where consumers go to find all of their information for the listings that they want. Realtors need to be part of one single MLS. And I really don't see this traditional way of business working, because you have a company like Zillow that has such a hold on the consumer's eyeballs that they're going to be in the driver's seat. I mean, you have a company that has all of the attention, and they're like, hey, if you don't list publicly on the MLS where they get their information from, you're not going to be allowed to put your listing on Zillow. And that has to be done in 24 hours. It's really crazy, because they're not even the MLS, and they're making rules for realtors, right? So you have to understand how backwards that is, and how the MLS has failed the realtors in general, because they've let this happen to the people who pay them. And I think they messed up big time. And it's really going to take a huge effort to turn this ship back around. And I think it's going to involve creating a singularity across the MLS. And then they're going to need to inject a bunch of money into promoting their platform. And that platform's got to be super nice looking and sleek. And I think that they may have a shot at saving the day for realtors.
Maybe. It's interesting because it kind of reminds me of like iRobot, or like, when one robot is there, it's like, oh, cool, look at that robot. Two robots, it's like, oh my God, look at this. Like, this is cool. And then soon robots are building robots, and then robots run everything, and I like the comparison of real estate agents to travel agents. Very similar, where everyone needs a travel agent in order to know where to go, what flights are coming at what time. And then, a company like Expedia, or I think Travelocity, took them out entirely. And, at that point, just few travel agents existed because it was, they focused on just knowing everything, right? Just knowing what place to be at what time. And they were just so educated. And now it's just, there's very, very few travel agents. It's going to happen to real estate agents too. And I think the next segue, unless you have more to talk about on this one, Nate, is what moves Zillow is making towards providing a better experience for the consumer and ultimately home owners, which will be happening real soon.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this is that Zillow wants to be a one-stop shop for everything. And coincidentally, the platform that we use for realtors to deliver content is a product of Zillow. And there was another software that realtors used called Follow Up Boss that was not a Zillow product until it was. So, and you're looking at us as photographers and creatives, and they've got now an integration with that part of the industry. They have an integration with the follow-up system and like how people run their real estate business. They have a marketplace with all of the products, and they have the support to handle, consumers who are looking for things, and all of the data that goes into the way that people shop for these super expensive products. So, I mean, they really have cultivated a product and platform that really covers everything that there needs to be said about real estate. And I think that's why they're winning. And I think that's why they've won over time for a very long time. But it's been a very, very slow game because I think that they have always had this in mind, but we're just starting to now see, I think, a tipping of just the scales with the way that consumers are shopping for things. And I think platforms like Amazon have had a big hand in that. I think that you've seen platforms like Carvana who have taken a stab at trying to have direct to consumer selling of products that are really expensive. You have a company like TikTok, which is a social media platform, who has really, really done well at being able to offer viewers a shopping experience on an app that you spend hours on end on. So I think that this is a gradual just evolution. And I really do think that we've just been really changing our purchasing habits over time. And it's going to be very, very soon where one generation just grows up with this being the norm, and they're able to just pull the trigger on it just by going on a platform. So not to say it's next year, maybe the year after that, but these things take time. And I think that this has been cooking for quite some time.
Definitely. It's funny because we're not just trying to scare real estate agents. We're just making people aware of really what's happening, because you don't want to wake up one day and get caught totally by surprise. And every industry is seeing these shifts, including ours. And I see a day in the near future where agents won't need a professional photographer. They'll pull out their phone inside their house and do some sort of scan, some sort of photo, something. And there'll be, AI trying to re-render what it saw into, pictures that will display it as good as the best photographers. And that would mean, totally disrupting an industry like real estate photography, like our own. So it's important to see what's happening, and pay close attention because it's going to be happening within every industry, just with the technology emerging, artificial intelligence, and consumers just wanting an easier way to do things and having something that they could trust. And that's really what's coming towards us. And it's funny because a few years ago, I don't remember who it was, but someone came up to me and was like, "Do you think your job will exist in 20 years?" And then I thought really like intensely. I was like, "Well, maybe they'll have like a drone that flies to the house that will just like go in there and take photos of things and then you won't need the person, but there'll still be some sort of hardware. And then you're like, okay, that hardware is in everyone's hand and pocket right now. And most people don't know how powerful their phone is at listening to them, at collecting data, whether it be with the microphone, with the LiDAR, with the camera. There's so much information. I could bet they're tracking our eyes. And it's just with all this information, they are able to analyze this information and make better processes and make better things from it. And it's crazy because when you think of quantum computing, you're like, why do we need a computer that can do all of these intense problems that would take a regular person 10 million years to do? It's like they want to process information, and that's just something something that most people don't understand. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that right now is the time to be building something of value that really disrupts an industry because, I personally think that we're going to be in a place one day where you're going to want the human touch on some things, but it's not going to be something you're going to pay a premium for. Maybe, I don't know. But I think that a lot of people shop and want convenience and they want speed. It's actually kind of like fast fashion. There's a couple documentaries on Netflix just about fast fashion and just the garbage that's pumped out every single day, like millions of articles of clothing and styles and stuff. And it's crazy. And you just wonder, like, what's the end goal of this type of living? I mean, I don't think it's sustainable that we're all going to have jobs that we're doing. I know that, there's people that float the idea of universal basic income, and which is an interesting concept because you have a company, Shopify CEO, tells staff to justify human hires if AI falls short. So, what this really means is that you have these CEOs that are part of these large companies that have tons of employees across the world who are now saying, like, we're done with entry level positions and we're done with any other position that can be handled by AI. And you start to wonder, like, the bar for getting a job is just getting so much higher. And there's so many people that we've grown up with over the last 10 years, even, that are not technical and they don't understand technology and they just do things very well. And a lot of times there's not a lot of technology needed in the jobs performed, pen and paper type stuff. But you start to get these softwares that can build systems like and flows within whatever you're doing in your business. Like, for example, if you needed to onboard certain positions, you wanted the interview taken care of, and you were able to vet the applicant. Then you were able to send them a series of automations, getting them onboarded, giving them logins, and then, having some sort of database that has the HR type stuff. Like, at what point are you starting to eliminate like HR assistant roles? Or, I mean, you could talk about electricians or plumbers. Eventually the way that homes are built, cars, you can start looking at like mechanics who don't work on electric vehicles, right? I mean, how many different things are under the hood of an electric vehicle? And the answer is literally nothing because it's a battery that sits under the main component of the car. So it's like, if you were be able to have self-driving technology that the car could just go to the shop and the factory, it's all autonomous robots that are fixing things. Like, you have to ask yourself, like, holy crap, like, where are things going? Like, that's why these CEOs of these companies like OpenAI are waiting for the first billionaire business owner because we're really getting to a point very quickly where you can build businesses and only have one person running it. And it's insane.
I mean, everything is going to change from the way we know it, the way we were raised doing things. And it's funny, it's just the happening of change and having people adopt it, right? Some old people are like, dude, I'm still going to have a landline. I don't need a cell phone, right? And that's just what it is, right? And but their grandkids are going to have smartphones for sure, in time. So it makes you think, and like how we are nowadays, most people have a short attention span. They are barely listening to the people that are talking to them, barely really just getting the information that they're getting online, and just quick, quick. I wouldn't be surprised if in 1,000 years we have some weird new language that's like beep bop boop, and it's like a whole sentence because people are like, I need the information quicker. And the evolution of the jobs, I think that when you look back, you see these eras in history. For example, the Industrial Revolution. What was happening before that, right? There was new technology coming up. So maybe people shouldn't be scared that they're going to lose their job, but they're going to have to learn something new. And everyone is going to be highly productive. So maybe the speed of which we innovate and everything else is just going to be tenfold, 20-fold. And we might be currently living through this new tech revolution or an AI revolution, and it's just the beginning phases that we're barely starting to realize.
Absolutely. And the thing too, the way I kind of see things is people being able to use platforms to build the tools that they need, almost like out of thin air, right? And imagine like if you were a builder and you came across 3D printers, and you remember that old like Fairly Odd Parents like episode or movie where he gets a 3D printer and he's like printing like a bunch of toys and like just like random objects and things like that. Do you ever remember that episode?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, like imagine like how a builder could have access to a tool that could just print them out like 1,000 nails that they needed to put a wall up, and then also print the nail gun, print a cord that plugs into the wall for power, and think about just that concept, but then take it to software. And you have these platforms that are allowing people with no code skills to build actual software tools, and it's basically out of thin air. Like you can have an idea for a software and you can insert it into these new tools that are excelling super quickly, and it can build it, and you can literally see like the code being put together like lightning fast, tons of files being created, and the whole environment being created and building you a tool that you need. So I do see like a gradual evolution where software pricing to build software is going to be drastically cut in half. You're already seeing countries like India who have a lot of their population who have learned to become software developers who have tried to come into the US looking for jobs but can't find any now because AI is just closing the gap on how big of a team these companies need to produce a product, or to just ship something faster. So I feel like you're going to see software pricing come way down. It's going to be slashed. And then you're going to start to see kind of like your average person, probably a little bit more technical, that understands things a little bit more, being able to build tools that they need for their businesses. And then eventually just probably getting to a point where they can build the automations necessary and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting world. People may have 3D printers that can just print whatever products that they're buying online.
Check this out. Since pull this up, the Industrial Revolution timeline. The first Industrial Revolution was 1750 to 1850. That's 100 years, right? So when people think of the revolution, they think like, "Oh my God, this thing was invented and it just happened." Like that's 100 years that just dramatically changed the course of history. And then you have the second Industrial Revolution, which was 1850 to 1915. So now you have a 65-year gap, right? So then the next one was like we kind of just plateaued and chilled out for a while, I guess. And the next one was 1970 to early 2000s. So you see each industrial revolution is getting smaller in size. So it's like 100 years, 60 years, 35 years. Right now, I would say like the next 5, 10 years it's going to be so cool living through it, but like you have to be aware. I mean, we have to be aware of what's happening around us and be able to take advantage of this, to make our lives easier, to establish new businesses that to make sure that our jobs aren't replaced. We're creating our next job as it's happening.
I know that like if you were to just look at the progression of these eras and just like that exponential curve, I really do see like this one being like, 10, 20 years that just straight up collapses like industries, like just fall to the ground because you're just looking at just massive changes happening in months. Like at first, like, do you remember when we first like got ChatGPT and we were like, oh my God, and it's like first model and it's like hallucinating and like saying dumb stuff, and we're just like, some people were like, this is so stupid, like it doesn't even give accurate information. Literally today, and that was what, 2 years ago, maybe like two and a half, and probably not even, it's probably like a year and a half. And I saw today that people were taking a photo of like a location and they were inserting it into one of the new models that ChatGPT, I think is like O3 or something, and it was like getting the image, chopping, like zooming in, chopping it up, and like analyzing it, like cycling through like probably millions of photos of locations, and then giving people the exact coordinates of where that location is. And that is just like stupid. That is like so insane. And it goes beyond that. I mean, that technology is just like digital, but you put that into a robot that is being built currently, like literally right now. And just like imagine what things can be accomplished with robots like that.
Yeah, I think it just my brain's just turning, and I'm just thinking like how you said, things, software and things are going to get cheaper. And I think because we're able to produce more, things will get cheaper, and we're able to produce more for less time. If you think of, I guess time is money, you could say. And if someone could develop a website in a day, which used to take weeks, should you pay them $20,000 what used to take weeks? Or should you pay them, let's say if it took 5 hours to make the website and the website is $500 and it's $100 per hour, instead of working, let's say 2,000 hours, which would have, or 200 hours, which would have been that website, do you still go on that price per hour thing, or kind of where is it going to be? Because I mean, if we're producing everything at a high level, maybe everything would just be more affordable for people. So everything's not just going to be super expensive. So everything kind of goes down in value, but people still have money to do it because you're like, oh my God, they took my job. Well, you just have to be able to have enough money to buy things. But it's weird because things are going up in price. So it's I don't know if that's the most easiest thing to wrap your head around, especially food.
I think it makes sense, but I think one of the fundamental issues is not having money after your job's taken, and people not being able to learn, and I feel like if we all had like universal basic income, not saying I'm an advocate for it or not, but if that concept was true and we all had money, we could spend that money on things like a website that would probably be less in cost because, it would be cheaper. But I mean, it goes against like some other like service based kind of ideology, is that like you don't necessarily pay a great videographer for the time it takes them to record and edit your home. You pay them for the quality and the experience they bring to the table. And if you are able to pump out a product that looks incredible and it only takes 30 minutes, you're paying for the person who's put in hours of time. So it's an interesting topic to kind of get into, I think.
100%. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to chat about?
I think we're working on some pretty cool things. I think that something that we definitely try and maintain is having an edge on the industry that we're in and a part of. And it's something that we've always done. So I think that looking at what AI can do in our business is probably something you should be looking at too. And I think I've maybe mentioned it before, but I've said it numerous times on and off, I think the podcast, but I've definitely said it is AI is not going to be a buzzword eventually. And right now it is a buzzword, and it's like people kind of roll their eyes at AI, and it's like the newspaper talking about the internet when it first came out. And now, people don't ask like where you found that information even. And things over time just start to kind of get watered down, and AI is going to be the fabric of how things are created online. I mean, probably even physically here pretty soon, and at a very mass scale. So I really wouldn't suggest like rolling your eyes at AI, because I think, and honestly putting it, that if you are doing that, you're going to have a very rude awakening, because this type of growth in our evolution in humanity is going to be happening very quickly. It's already happening very quickly. So that would just be probably my best advice, is figure out how AI can impact your business to protect yourself, and then also figure out how you can build AI to help you in your business so that you can have an edge on your competitors. So that's kind of probably my last bit of information there regarding AI. With the advancements of creating content, and if you look at platform, I know that we just briefly discussed it, was CubiCasa. But if you look at CubiCasa and the ability and how easy it is to scan your home, having an immersive experience is going to be the next level and of showcasing your home. And I don't think that photography and videography are going to be as important as an immersive tour, because I do think that we're going to get to a point here soon where people have glasses and it's the norm. And if you look at the advancements of a platform like Instagram, they were crushing it on just photos. It was a photo album app, and you could post your photos, and it wasn't for, I think, some time where you got video. It was like, oh, you can post video on Instagram, and it's video adds more depth than photos. And then you look at something like TikTok, and you start to see that organic videos are super valuable, because that gives more depth emotionally. You don't see more, but you just get more out of it. And then you look at just like what's next. And I do think that immersive content is going to be the main thing. I think that videos are going to capture people's attention, and then you're going to be led into an immersive experience. And that's what video will be used for, because like even now, like people don't just order photos. They used to just be like, I just need photos. And then you had like a group who wanted to invest more in their marketing, was like, I'm going to invest in video and photos. And then it was like, now everyone does photos, everyone does videos, and then some people do 3D tours. And I think that's just going to be the norm. And you have a platform like CubiCasa that takes care of that. So
What's next for real estate agents? Like you're saying, everyone just did photos. And I mean, it probably even goes back to just doing regular photos, and then it went to professional photos, and then it went to drone, and then video. And, what else can people do to try something different? People are doing drone fly-through videos and all kinds of things. But maybe it's the capability of touring a house virtually, right? And that's just like the new thing, right? Where they don't want to waste their time to go see a house. They just want to tour it virtually from their living room or something, and that's possible with Matterport, but it's stitched in a way where it's not re-rendered, but
yeah, I mean, if you even look at just how lightweight CubiCasa is to Matterport, right? Like Matterport would, and the reason why they probably didn't do what CubiCasa did was because they were selling super expensive cameras. And Matterport's great for like really detailed, just like data, but like you have something like CubiCasa that it's in, your pant pocket that you could scan a home and make it a 3D model. So something to think about as content creators.
Yeah. I had this prediction the other day that Mark Zuckerberg is going to be the richest man in the world. I mean, he's been like up there for a while, but like he just hasn't like next leveled it. But I think the way we see Instagram is going to change too. It's funny because when you think of marketing and just like marketing a company, so many people probably think Instagram, and you could use Instagram as your website. Totally. You don't need a website. It's just like, I mean, it's a standard. Everyone has it. So if those people have it, you need to have it. But I mean, as far as like efficiency and for the consumer, not having to do like multiple clicks and navigations and things like, imagine on a business profile page where it's like, okay, you have their photos, their videos of like their portfolio. This is proof of concept. And you could have like, it's sort of how you switch between photos to reels, like that little slider thing. They'll probably have like products, and then you just buy the products right there, and it'll be like reviews right there, like everything right there. So people are like, dude, why do I need a website? This is so easy. Look, just bam, send it to someone, share it to someone, advertise it. So it's like, why do you need Google My Business when they could just beef up the search fields and stuff through their sort of like TikTok? And it's like they have such a beautiful, simple platform. I could totally see it. I had that idea the other day. I was like, dude, Mark Zuckerberg is going to do some crazy stuff.
I think he's trying. I just don't think that we adapted to his virtual reality dreams and aspirations, but we will.
He's at the forefront of it. He's still paving the way, but until it's accepted, you just can't give up. Some ideas come before their time, but as long as there's enough innovation, and if I see that's the thing, is innovation comes from usually the person who's not the leader, because you see how things are being done. You're like, dude, I could do it different, and then bam, So it's hard being like the leader because you have to maintain it. You have to maintain that space at the top, but
Always got to be innovating. That's why they just copy what works. They let other companies prove concepts and they just copy it.
I'll be a Zuck fan. I was a Zuck fan after his cool podcast he did with Joe Rogan, and yeah, I was just like, whatever, Zuckerberg. He's cool. He's smart. He's becoming cooler and more like in front of like the public eye, just the way he's presenting himself. So I was like, let me hear him, and I was like, dude, this guy's cool. And hopefully that's the true him, what he was saying. I saw some conspiracy videos saying like, dude, he doesn't hunt. He's totally lying. He's just trying to sound like he hunts online about, bows and stuff with Joe Rogan and stuff, trying to be cool. But, he made some comments on Apple and was like, dude, like these people are, they have this stronghold and they're not letting people do this protocol. And, with the App Store, like if you look at their revenue and how they actually make money, it's not just from selling iPhones. It's like App Store, huge amount. It's like this, that. There's so many different avenues. And I just hope Zuck doesn't fall in the same suit of making the money of like, okay, if you want to buy a product through Instagram, you have to pay us 20% because we displayed it on your store and we own your store. Or you have to pay $100 a month to have a business page. Like, yeah. Which people will pay. Like he's already testing. He's like meta verified or whatever. I signed up and then they're like, yeah, it's $20 a month. I'm like, what? Is it for the check mark or what am I actually getting?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's like 40 or something, like 60 or something bucks a month, but you can get access to their like pro AI. So maybe Meta's giving that away.
There's got to be some benefit to it that maybe we just didn't really see yet, for like big companies. Obviously $20 ain't nothing for a big company. So like, yeah, let's do it. But something like, hey, we can put you ahead of the algorithm or something, but who knows? Well, guys, thanks for joining us in this week's episode. And if you haven't already, you can watch these with video on YouTube and you could tune into Spotify. So thanks for joining us. And until next time.